Okay, so, hola. Hoy vamos a tomar los últimos apuntes del año. ¡Woohoo! Fenomenal. Y vamos a hablar del presente perfecto, otherwise known as the present perfect. And this is actually a verb tense that we use in English all the time to say, I have done my homework. I have cleaned my room. Are you sure you have cleaned your room? You can guess that I have that conversation at home a decent amount of times. Like, are you sure you have cleaned your room? Because I'm not sure that you have done that. Okay? So, we're going to work on this today. You're going to get all of the notes and all the information. It is going to be essential that you listen because there will be a few pieces of information that you will miss if you just watch. So, please keep that in mind. Okay? So, let's roll. So, primera cosa. Okay? Que usamos el presente perfecto para hablar de lo que las personas have done. So we use it to talk about what things have done. And it is a compound tense, un tiempo compuesto, which is how you say compound tense. It's formed with the present of the irregular verb haber. So se forma con el presente del verbo irregular haber. Sorry, you can hear people outside. I'm in a side room here at the high school, so you can hear people outside if they're being a little loud. Y el participio pasado del segundo verbo. So you form it with the present of the verb haber and the past participle of a second verb. And be aware that in English, the past participle is the equivalent of what we would call the ed form of a verb. So, for example, there's so many irregular past participles that sometimes I actually have a hard time thinking of regular ones. Let's try completed or created or prepared. Okay, things along those lines. Got it? So let's roll. So first things first, at the bottom of the first page, we're talking about how to conjugate the verb haber en el presente. And realize that you've actually been using the verb haber in a very specific way for a long time without potentially even knowing it, okay? So haber is one of the wonkiest verbs there is. It's only used to form the present perfect and the past perfect. Past perfect is otherwise known as a pluperfect. We're not dealing with that this year. And in the expressions I, for there is or there are, hubo or había, there was or there were, habré, there will be, and things along those lines. So haber only has these two very specific uses, okay, or these three very specific uses to form the present perfect, the past perfect, and then those there is, there are, there was, there were, etc., type of conjugations, okay? So it's not used the way any other verb really is used. It's only used as a helping verb and to mean those very specific things. Okay? So how to conjugate it is I have you have informal as, he or she has or you have formal a. We have hemos, you all have only in España, habéis, and they have or you all have an. Make sure to write the H, but be aware, of course, that that H is silent when you pronounce it. And be aware that you cannot use this verb to just normally say, I have. Use tener for that. These verb conjugations of this specific verb haber are only used for the purpose of conjugating verbs and using the present perfect tense. So only used for this specific purpose, for the present perfect. No other reason to use this at all. Moving on to the top of Página 2, so how to form regular past participles, So the first step at the top of Página 2, quita la AR, so get rid of the AR, y añade ado. So you add ado, ADO. So por ejemplo, and please write these verbs and past participles and potentially meanings if it's going to be helpful to you at the top of Página 2. Amenazar is amenazado. So amenazado is threatened. Contaminar becomes contaminado, contaminated. Malgastar becomes malgastado, wasted. And usar becomes usado, used. Moving on to los verbos er and ir, los participios pasados regulares, so regular past participles. Vas a quitar la er o ir, so the er or ir goes, y vas a añadir ido, ido. So, por ejemplo, we have crecido, from crecer, which is grown. Destruido comes from destruir. Destruido is destroyed. From proteger, we have protegido, which is protected. And from reducir, we have reducido, which is reduced. Okay? And just like we only use conjugations of the verb haber to form the present perfect, we use these past participles largely, of course, with the present perfect tense. They do not replace the regular verb conjugations you've seen in the past. So por ahora, pausa el video y completa la actividad al principio de la página 3. So pause the video, do the activity at the top of page 3. When you believe that you are done, you want to raise your hand and have me take a quick look to make sure that you have the right idea before getting the rest of the information that you need. Okay? So let's go. So to finish up, we are going to be dealing with a couple more things here. First, we have irregular past participles, and there are many of them, as you'll see. Okay? But be aware, of course, as you see at the bottom of página 3, hay muchos participios pasados irregulares en inglés. So English actually has a ton of irregular past participles. And I'm going to give you these examples below here, and I would strongly advise that you write them down so the next time you think, why does Spanish have so many weird irregular things about it? You have a quick example of one weird irregular thing that we deal with in English as well. Okay? So we have, for example, in English, told, done, made, written, seen, and eaten. Because we don't say, for example, I telded, I have telded. We say, I have told. We don't say, you have dided, you have done. We don't say, she has maked. We say, she has made. We don't say, we have righted. We say, we have written, etc., etc., etc. I think you probably get the idea by now. So Página 4 is largely filled up with a large chart. And be aware, on the chart it all goes down. On the chart on your paper it all goes down. But here you're going to go across the rows. Not down, it's going to go across. So you will hear these all in order. But you need to make sure as you're looking at the presentation that you look across. And you're not going down the rows first. You're going across the rows. So from decir, we have dicho, which means said or told. Hacer, hecho, made or done. Abrir, abierto, which is opened. Cubrir is cubierto, which is covered. From descubrir, we have descubierto. Oh, I'm missing the C there. Descubierto. Sorry about that. So there is a typo on the PowerPoint, but there is not one on your slide. So I apologize for that there. It means discovered. From escribir, we have escrito, which is written. Describir, descrito, described. From ver, we have visto, which is seen. From poner, we have puesto, which is put or placed. From componer, we have compuesto, which is, for example, composed or put together, depending on, how it's being used. From morir, we have muerto, which is died. From romper, we have roto, which is broken. From imprimir, to print, we have impreso, which is printed. From volver, we have vuelto, and vuelto has to do with people returning, and it means returned, but people returning, or animals returning. From devolver, we have devuelto, which also means returned, but it has to do with an item being returned. So, for example, los estudiantes han devuelto los libros. The students have returned the books, okay? As opposed to el estudiante ha vuelto a la clase. The student has returned to the class. So those are different uses of the verbs devolver and volver. Once you're situated with this, you want to get the last little bit of information here for página 5. And finalmente, el presente perfecto con los verbos reflexivos. Y el pronombre reflexivo siempre está enfrente de haber. So when you're dealing with any types of these wonky pronouns, so the reflexive pronouns, the DOPs, the IOPs, when you're dealing with the present perfect, the pronoun, whether it is a reflexive, whether it is a direct object pronoun or an indirect object pronoun, always has to be in front of the conjugation of haber. When you're dealing with the present perfect, you cannot ever attach these types of pronouns to the past participle. So always in front of haber. A couple of quick examples here at the top of página 5. Nosotros nos hemos preocupado por el medio ambiente. We have preoccupied ourselves, or we have been worried about the environment. And los estudiantes se han levantado de las sillas. The students have gotten up from their chairs. We're going to spend some time practicing with this over the next several days, and please let me know if you have questions or if there are things you would like to check over with me. Gracias.